Just grab a drink here, and then I'll be all good. Hopefully everything is set up correctly. I hope people are joining in as well. I have to get back into the flow of things, even though I just took like 3 days off, and I had everything like pre-recorded and pre-scheduled and everything. Just getting out of the, I guess, the flow of this kind of job of making content. Yeah, that just takes a little bit of time getting back used to, or getting used to again. Ben the Geddig, I'm unsure how to pronounce it, but welcome to the stream. Thank you for the happy wishes, or the happy birthday wishes. Mine B, welcome as well. How are you guys doing? Yeah, we're just going to produce a little bit today. I don't want to do anything special or anything big or anything like that. I was maybe planning on doing like another Bitwig stream, but I'll carry that over to next week somewhere. Because I honestly just want to chill and produce a little bit. Kev Human, welcome, welcome. So this is a project that I've shown off a few times on stream. I'm pretty much done with all of the main ideas. I did add one new like main sequence to it, which is this thing over here. Like a glitched up guitar kind of thing. Delay is very uncontrolled though. Should be okay. I mean, this is the kind of thing that I check when I get to mixing anyway, so I don't really have to care about that. When it comes to writing, I like to write in a way that I don't really check if there's like any running out delays and stuff like that. That's why sometimes when I play a track during a break at the end of it, there will still be some delay tails left that shouldn't be there. Doggerman, welcome, welcome. How are you doing? One of the things that I need to do is re-record this bit over here. I guess without the crash, because that is actually placed on here. And that is for this build-up thing that I have going on here. So I need to re-record that, because I made some changes to the synths in here. Maybe we'll do that at the end of the stream, so hopefully somebody can remind me of that. The other things that I want to do mainly today is focus a little bit on the build-up, because I'm not entirely happy with how that flows yet. I have a cool vocal for this track now, but it doesn't really have a proper vocal theme yet. At least not like a title and something that I can work towards. So I might need to find some more vocals as well. But the idea is there. Like having a vocal right there. It might not end up being that vocal exactly. Right now, that's the build-up part. I think what I want to start with is just some 8-note snares, and I want like a very big, very strong snare. So let's see if I can find something cool. Maybe these hard ones over here. I want something with a maybe a bit longer noise component. Maybe something like this. Not was, welcome, welcome. How are you doing? I guess I have developed over time a little bit of standard greeting for when new people show up in the chat. I don't want to sound like a robot when I'm sitting here, so maybe I should try to make it a little bit more interesting. Seems to still work, even though I just threw an error there for some reason. I've never seen, at least I don't remember having ever seen that. I want a brighter one. The character bright might work. Yes. Like that idea, but towards the end it needs to go up much more. That works. I guess the volume could be a little bit louder here and then just start lower. Maybe towards the end, when the filter is going up, we also give it a bit more resonance, like so. I like that. I think what we can do is have this like sweep in. Because we have like a sample over here that can just reverse into this. Gives us a little bit more of a warning there. Or coming from here maybe. We immediately start with the connection issues. That's very annoying. I hope that that doesn't become a theme throughout this stream. If it does, I'm just going to stop, because today really isn't the day to deal with this kind of stuff. I just want to chill, I just want to relax here and make some music, and I don't want to be bothered with any technical things. I mean, it's never good to have technical issues, but out of all of the days, please don't make it today. I like that. I like where we're going over here. I think one of the things that I want to do is maybe have a few more effects in this bit here, as I said, sweeping into this idea. So maybe something more like a real world instrument kind of effect. Because now we have something in the middle here. We have the like noise coming in and then the impact coming out. It would be cool to supplement that with maybe some kind of real world instrument. That's a hard phrase to say. Real world. If you want to pronounce it properly. Maybe like a big hit or something like that. There's some cool stuff in here. Maybe if we render that out, that could be cool. Let's see. Reminds me of the church that we visited in Vienna. There was nobody in there. We didn't go to, or we did also go to like the main cathedral or the Duomo, I guess. But there's also like a fairly big church outside of Siena, and when we were there was nobody there, so I clapped a few times to get an idea of the reverb that was in there. I didn't have anything to record it with, otherwise I would have maybe taken impulses or something like that. That would be interesting at some point. It's like a way to get a unique reverb sound, is to just record your own impulse. But right now I don't have the capabilities to do that. Because you need like a proper, as far as I know, you need a special microphone and like a special impulse generator, maybe, or like not generator, but like a very special speaker that clicks in the right way. I think you can also do it with a clap, but then your result may not be as clean as you want it to be. Of course, if you're just starting out with doing something like that, with creating your own impulses, then that doesn't really matter. But to be honest, I don't know enough to actually say that. Have the kick and bass come in a little bit earlier by opening up the low pass a bit more. When you're writing ARPs, do you set a scale and then semi-randomly place notes? When it comes to like note placement and such, when I'm writing ARPs, let's go into an ARP. Stuff like this. Generally speaking, I have some kind of pattern in mind. So what I often start out with is an idea for what the main pattern is doing, right? Which is the pattern over here. And then I have like the secondary pattern, which is the support thing. So this duplicates over to all of the other ones and fills it up exactly the same way. So that is kind of like the basis. And then when it comes to the actual notes, there's a lot of tweaking and experimenting to actually get the ARP to do what I want it to do. Like this one over here. It took me a while to get the top melody to this part here, but the rhythm basically stayed the same throughout the whole thing, throughout the whole writing process. When it comes to how I place the notes, it's just purely by ear, like what does sound good, what gets me the energy that I want to get from the ARP, what gets me the excitement that I want to get from it. I never really use any random generation when I'm making this. It's always just me writing things in, but I am essentially just randomly experimenting until I land something good. So it is kind of random, but it's not that I use something to generate that randomness for me. That could be an interesting approach. Sometimes though, I do have like, I guess, yeah, sometimes I do that because I sometimes use Stepic for my ARPs, in which case I can randomize the note values. Right, Stepic is a very powerful tool for this kind of stuff. If you're ever out of creative energy and you need to write an ARP, then Stepic is a way to do it. Because within Stepic, at least once it loads here, you can just randomize based on the exact key that you want. So if you're writing in Frisian, G sharp, like we are in this case, I could just generate ARPs like this until I find a pattern that is actually what I'm after. And then I might still tweak it. I might still make some changes, stuff like that. But at that point, yeah, you're using essentially the randomness that is built in here. So yeah, sometimes it depends, I guess, kind of the energy that I have. If I have something in mind, then I will write it. And even then, I might not get to a point where I want to be immediately. Like, it takes a lot of rewrites. It takes a lot of time for me to actually get the melody. The reason for that is I don't really actually like know any music theory. I do everything in terms of the musical idea. I do everything by ear and just through the years of training. That is one of the reasons why I tend to write in very few keys and always in Frisian mode. So that I always have my past experience to kind of build on from there. And it also, over the years, it just sounds good for this kind of music. And writing anything else is immediately going to sound a little bit off for me. So I'm kind of restricting myself, I guess, into the way that I'm writing, in that I'm always in one of a few very specific keys, and then always in the same scale for every key that I use, right? The Frisian mode, whatever, or Frisian scale. I don't know what the right term for it is. I believe Frisian and Frisian dominant are two different things. But even then, that doesn't really tell me anything, because all I know when actually trying to lay out a scale like that is if you want to lay out the Frisian, you start at A and you just go up all of the notes until you're back at A again, and then you take the second note and you move that one down so that the second note is actually on the sharp here, and then you just move it to whatever key you need. This is not something that I use anymore. Like, I used to just do this, and then from here I could check whether the notes were in scale or not, the ones that I was writing. Nowadays I have written so many melodies that I essentially know the pattern by heart, and I can essentially figure or place the notes just based on the pattern of which notes there are. It doesn't mean that I would be able to name out all of the notes that are, for example, in G sharp Frisian. But it does mean that whenever I'm in that writing flow, that I can write a melody that is basically always in key. And even then, sometimes I just make mistakes, and I sometimes go back to check if something is sounding off. Then I check it with the trick that I just showed before. just by transposing the root note to the normal A here and then seeing if it fits with the pattern that I know. Frisian dominant has a flattened 7 note. Okay. Yeah, that doesn't that doesn't really tell me anything, because as I said, I don't know any music theory, and I don't really care about learning music theory. At some points I always thought like it would be nice to learn music theory because you don't know what you don't know, but nowadays I feel like the music that I'm trying to write, I'm almost always capable of writing that music. So it's not really that I feel limited by the fact that I don't know anything in regards to music theory. I just write on feel, and most of the time I'm able to just get out whatever I want from that approach. We weren't here, we were here. It sounds good, and that's what matters. Exactly, yeah. The only thing that can be a problem with that philosophy, like as long as it sounds good, that is all that matters, is that it may take you longer than necessary to get to a point where it sounds good. Like if you know music theory and you have like a deep understanding of which notes together sound good and which patterns together sound good and which rhythms together sound good, then you're more likely to initially write an idea that is just going to work with that part of the track. Whereas if you're just messing around, it may take you a lot longer to actually get there. You know what I mean? This line glyph, welcome, welcome. Hope you guys are doing well. I want to see what happens if I add like a big drum or a drop clap, which I have in the volume 3 Cashmere pack, I think. This stuff. Just like a detail thing here, and I'll put on the same filter that I have on the kick and the bass. Could be a bit louder here. We'll get ourselves a extra tonal riser in here. The genre doesn't have a lot of chord changes, so the theory isn't as relevant as in some other genres. True, yeah. At the end of the day, you're just basically writing everything in the root node, or a lot of the things in the root node. There are some things that I do where it's instead of like doing actual chord changes, it's just playing a melody. And for that, obviously, you need to know which notes go well with each other. But even there, with the limited amount of possibilities that you have, you're going to get something that is going to sound at least decent fairly quickly. Especially after some years of experience like I have. That's kind of what I was aiming for. I like that. It can be a bit quieter though. I don't want this to be up front. I want it to be in the background, of course. I feel like maybe this is a little bit on the loud side. So I'm just going to do a quick waveform check here. This is a very old recording. Sometimes I like to keep some of these recordings if I'm going to record over it. Just so that I have some very old versions of particular parts of the track. Okay, so this isn't necessarily too loud. I mean, I think that will be okay in terms of the difference in like volume over here and over here. I'm not looking at like the peaks. I'm mainly looking at the lower volume over here versus what is happening over here. That being said, the stuff that is happening over here maybe becomes a little bit too loud, especially the one click that we get here from the kick drum, which is this bad boy over here. So it may be good to make sure that there's like a saturator on there, just to clip off that bit there right after. I want to drive it in here with maybe 5 dB and then go down 5 dB in output level. That way it reduces peak volume. One of the things that I often have an issue with my build-ups is that I feel like it's not really how should I say, like all of the elements are just trying to fight for space with each other. And one of the ways that I see that is that it tends to be a lot louder than my main kick and bass stuff, which is weird because there's no lower frequencies in here, and lower frequencies tend to be the waves that show up loudest on like a visual check like this. I was wrong, by the way. Frisian dominant has a raised third compared to the Frisian. It can be a bit more Eastern, but also slightly more tension in a good way. Okay. That is interesting to maybe look at one day. I've also heard things about Hungarian keys and such. As I said, I know basically nothing about that stuff. And at the end of the day, I'm pretty happy. The reason why it's an issue is you're always happy with your current workflow when you don't realize that essentially the things that you're missing could make your music even better, right? In terms of information, in terms of knowledge. So maybe music production or music theory is the thing that I should maybe look into more. But I've never played an instrument like this thing over here. I've said it many times before. It's basically just there as a showpiece for the videos so that it looks a little bit more professional. And it doesn't really have any other purpose. Like, I don't know how to play it. So I don't really have a proper way of training it other than maybe placing it in MIDI, which is not, when it comes to music theory and studying that way, it's not the most exciting method to do things. Right, learning an instrument is much more exciting, I guess, than actually learning music theory just by placing down MIDI notes. Hello Dash, welcome. How are you doing? Music theory is a nice way to explain why things sound good, etc., rather than a set of rules to follow. Yeah, that's true. At the end of the day, the music needs to come from your, I guess, experience writing, right? At the end of the day, at some point, you've realized in your career which notes work well with which and which patterns work well. You've built up your own kind of muscle memory for proper writing. That being said, I do think stuff like this can be accelerated by learning music theory, and B, you can get a new perspective because, as I said before, I've heard about Hungarian and Frisian dominance, but I've never actually written with any of those. So at the end of the day, I have no experience with how those keys are supposed to sound and how I can make good music with those. So even if I start to try, it's most likely that I'll say like, hey, this is sounding off to me because I'm so used to Frisian because I write everything in that. So you're kind of missing out on the things that you don't know, is what I'm trying to say, I guess. Do you use any frequency response calibration on high pass or monitors? Does the HP stand for high pass there in that question? The answer to that question is no. I don't use anything like room correction or a way that I'm altering the frequencies that my monitors output. And that is purely because at the moment I'm in a temporary setup. So I'm going to need to redo everything like that in the new apartment where I'm going to move to in September. Oh, headphones. Yeah, sorry. So right now I'm like in a temporary setup, so it doesn't really make sense for me to, or it could make sense for me to adapt to that setup, but I want to do it properly anyway. So something like Sonarworks for the monitors or the headphones, both, I guess, is something that I really want to look into when I'm settling in the other apartment, which I'm trying to get for a couple of years at least, so that I can stay there for longer. Part of the reason is because this apartment is pretty shitty. It's not the greatest place to be. Um, but I guess one of the or those frequency response calibration things is really something that you need to invest a little bit of time in to set up properly. Otherwise, it can do more harm than good. So for that reason, I haven't had the time and the willingness to do it here yet, because I know that here it's not permanent. I'm staying here until September, and then I'm back to the old place. Also, there's some projector collab vid. There's multiple collaboration vids that we've done. There's the one where I sent him a Psytrance beat and he put his synths on it. But there's also on his channel, this is an older video, an interview or like a podcast kind of thing that we did. I guess it's called a podcast. It's long enough for it to be called a podcast. I don't even know how long that was, because that was a long time ago. Let me find that. But I remember recording that. Yeah, that's almost 2 hours. This thing over here. But as you can see, I still had hair, so this is very old footage. As you can see. And then there's this thing over here, which is more recent. This is back when my camera was terrible, when I was forced to use the webcam temporarily. But basically, I sent a beat to Psyger, Glitch, and Mr. Speaker, and all three came back to me playing synths on top of it. And then we all reacted to each other's work, kind of deal. So there are collaboration videos of us, but I guess that's the only real collaboration that we've done. There was also a very old series on my channel where I remixed one of his tracks that eventually came out, but the videos that I showed, like my production stage of that remix, these ones over here. There's 3 videos on this remix idea, I think. Yeah, here's number 2, and then there should be a number 3 somewhere. This search function has been turned into recommendations as well lately, so it's not always showing you everything, I guess. But the remix is out as well, but this ended up being a completely different track than the stuff that I showed in the actual video. I redid the whole track before that actually came out. Greedo, welcome. How are you doing? All chords are extracted from scales or notes, so it's worth learning the basic formulas. Is how that works. Yeah, I can see that. Of how that works. Sorry. Yeah, I can see that. I can see that being useful to know. Most DAWs allow you to restrict to a particular scale, so music theory becomes less important. It doesn't really work that way. It's not just about learning the notes, also the way that they relate to each other and the way that they resolve into each other. Because that's where the real storytelling is, right? The way that you go from one note to the other. Once again, we don't really do chord changes inside of Psytrance. Like, that's not a common thing. Although I've done a few tracks that actually have some. I guess the main reason why I want to know it more is because I hope that some information like that will get me better at making ARPs and stuff like that. As you can apply the same kind of theory, not to the chords of a whole track, but I guess to the notes of an ARP like this. But again, I don't know enough about music theory to actually say if that's true or not. Like if that kind of theory actually applies. Happy belated birthday. Hope you had a great time. I did have a very good time. I don't know if I can show any pictures without... Can I show pictures without showing phone numbers? I don't think I can, no. So I'm not going to do that. Because they're on WhatsApp, so there's always like a phone number showing. Maybe during the break I can download some. I'll see if I can download some during the break and then I can show. I'll put them on my Discord. Because for those that don't know, I guess I shouldn't tell this because this is a little bit of my own life hack, and I don't want too many people knowing of this hack. Otherwise, people may patch it. Yeah, I'm not going to say anymore. There's some cool stuff that you can do with Discord as not just a multi-person communication device. Actually, you're not active in Instagram. Yeah, no, I suck at social media. Even though it's my full-time job, being an influencer, I actually don't like, I'm not really good at being like a proper influencer that is on all platforms and stuff like that. I really try to. One of the things that I've tried to do for a long time is get my Twitter account back, because my Twitter account was linked to the old phone number that I have back when I was in Budapest, because there I had a different SIM card. So I'm currently unable to actually go into my own Twitter account, which is very annoying. And I've sent like many hundreds of emails, and I don't know if it's just Elon Musk or just because it's like a very big company and all big companies do like that. I assume it's the latter. But every time I get the automated response of reset your password, and in order to reset your password, you need to have access to your phone number, which I no longer have because that SIM card got deactivated like 3 years ago when I moved out of Budapest. So I cannot actually access the Twitter account that has my name on it and has the username that I want and such, and also has some of my old tweets and stuff like that. And in regards to Instagram, my life isn't really Instagrammable. Like, most of the time I'm just sitting here, which is not great content for Instagram. Instagram is really meant for people that go outside a lot, which for this kind of job doesn't really happen too often. I'm sure that once I go to more festivals and such, I'll put on more content, and then I can actually, or then I have more things that I can actually photograph and put on there. I should just put the pictures of Sienna on there, but it may look a little bit weird of when I post something and then for maybe half a year again I don't post anything at all. You should put all your short videos there. It would be a great way to gain followers and more. It would if Instagram allowed me to just properly schedule stuff and set everything up. I've tried doing that. I've actually done it in the past. I've experimented also with TikTok. I've experimented with Facebook for shorts. None of their... I guess TikTok is okay in terms of posting my shorts, but it doesn't really gain anything. One of the things that you have to realize when it comes to social media is that it's almost... It's like virtually impossible to get somebody to follow you on TikTok and then become interested in YouTube. Or the other way around. Like, I can tell you guys that I have a TikTok and you may all follow me, but you're never going to religiously watch me on TikTok because you know of me from YouTube, and my content is so accessible on YouTube that you have no incentive to actually go over to TikTok and watch me there. Because I already post everything that you guys want to see or that you can see onto YouTube. So, and the same is true the other way around. Like, if I amass a very big following onto TikTok, I have a very big following onto TikTok, which then doesn't really translate into a very big following onto YouTube. Because for me, the only benefit that getting a large following would have is that they would watch my long format videos more, which is where I do most of my advertising for products and stuff like that. Generally speaking, in shorts, it's a little bit harder to do. I've tried, but it's really hard to get people excited for your products, because that's for me just where the money is. Right? At the end of the day, I need to pay my bills, and the way that I do that is by selling you guys products. I like to be very open about that stuff. I don't make enough money just on the YouTube thing alone. So I sell products to supplement that, and I have other things as well. I have the Patreon, I have other services, the mixing service, the private lessons, all of that stuff. No OnlyFans accounts, no. If you want to see my feet, you can just ask. No, that's not something that I'm interested in. Um, but yeah, when it comes to social media, it's really hard to get somebody from one platform to the other. It's basically if you're trying to rely on that, you're basically dead in the water. Like that's never going to actually work. You're never going to get a significant following on one platform and then easily move them over to a different platform. Something really has to happen. Like one of the things that could happen that would facilitate that, for example, is if the TikTok ban in the United States goes into effect, and then there's a lot of big TikTok content creators on there, they are all going to push their audience and say collectively, like, you guys should follow us TikTokers on YouTube because that is where we're going to be posting from now on. The reason why they're then going to move over is not because the content creator is like telling them from like, hey, follow my stuff on YouTube. It's literally the platform is going to shut down, right? So they have no other choice. That would be a way that you could get followers or a large group of followers from TikTok to another platform. But there's not really any other way. One of the things is, I mean, there's always a possibility, right? Like, let's say that I were to blow up on TikTok and I get 100,000 people there. Maybe 10, 20 people, maybe 30 people would move over to YouTube and actually check out my YouTube content. But is the time investment into that, is that worth it? TikTok itself doesn't really pay anything. Like, people make basically no money on that platform from everything that I've heard. So is the time investment worth it? And the same is true for Instagram. Instagram doesn't pay its creators. So getting a large following on Instagram, the only way that you're going to capitalize on it is by doing sponsored posts. With regards to people moving from one platform to another, look at Ninja and move to Mixer, whole platform died. Yeah, but there's more recent examples of that as well. Kick is the streaming service that essentially has infinite money and can shill out money for any creator that they want. They've tried buying a few creators of Twitch and move them over to the Kick streaming service, and essentially nobody followed. Right? The people that were watching those creators on Twitch just moved on to other creators on Twitch. Even a big creator like the biggest one is XQC, who got $100 million to move from Twitch to Kick for a couple of years, and not even exclusively, I think. Even he, in terms of viewership, I think maybe like 10-20% of his viewers or of the numbers that he got on Twitch actually showed up on Kick, which is a terrible deal at the end of the day. Because if you want to compete with Twitch, you would essentially need to buy a majority of their creators. XQC, as big as he is as a streamer, if you compare him to the whole of Twitch, he is basically nothing. Like a small percentage point. Maybe, let's say at maximum he's 1% of all of the people that are watching Twitch at any given time. If you were to go live on Twitch. That is basically nothing. If you have to pay 100 million... I did just lose connection for a second. Maybe I should, since I was having like an actually interesting argument, maybe I should check 2 seconds where I was. Got on Twitch actually showed up on Kick, which is a terrible deal at the end of the day. Because if you want to compete with Twitch, you would essentially need... I'm just going to check where... By a majority of their creators. XQC, as big as he is as a streamer, if you compare... Where the connection dropped. To the whole of Twitch, he is basically nothing. Like a small percentage point. Maybe, let's say at maximum he's 1% of all of the people that are watching Twitch at any given time. If you were to go live on Twitch. That is basically nothing. If you have to pay 100 million... Oh, I clicked out of everything. That's not good. Give me 2 seconds here. I accidentally just closed the tab altogether for my live stream. Yeah. Should be here. And then I need to pop out the chat again, because now this chat doesn't update and I need to move this chat back over here. I'm also going to talk about the DJing stuff on Twitch. That's also interesting. But what I said, essentially to finish that thought, if you need to spend $100 million to buy out 1% of a platform, and Twitch as a platform as a whole is valued at $2 billion maximum, I guess, maybe around that. They were essentially bought for $1 billion, but assuming a little bit of growth and stuff like that, they may be worth $2 billion now. At that point, instead of spending all of that money buying individual creators, you just buy the whole platform, right? That's a much better way of getting people to move, and then you just integrate Twitch with Kick, or the other way around, whatever you want, because at that point you own both of them, so it doesn't really matter. But I think buying individual creators is not a way to grow it, and the reason for that is the same reason why, for me, spending a lot of time worrying about Instagram or Facebook or TikTok isn't really a great growing strategy, because it's just much better for me to focus on the platform that I actually want people to follow me on, which is YouTube at the end of the day, because that is where all of my advertising is happening. That is essentially where I make all of my revenue, both like slight revenue directly, but most of it indirectly. And short form content, the way that Instagram works, the way that TikTok works, and the way that, to a certain extent, also Facebook has like its own short form thing as well. But I guess maybe Facebook is a little bit better, because I could post my long forms there. I'm not sure the time investment is worth it for those platforms. Especially for the shorts, I know that is not worth it. Like you basically cannot advertise anything properly inside of a short. Like I can mention that I have a pack that I'm using for a particular sound in a short, but that never really gets people excited to get the pack. That's not why people watch short form content. They watch short form content to be entertained for 1 minute, as opposed to actually learning something or looking for new products to buy, which is what long format content essentially tries to fill. Twitch just made a big changes for DJ channels. It's all legal now, but you have to share revenue and doesn't cover recordings, just live streams. Yeah. There's a few things. You cannot have clips made of your live stream. You cannot have recordings of your live stream on the VOD, the video on demand of the live stream, which is the recording of the live stream essentially. What's also available on my YouTube page for all of my old live streams and such. There's a 50-50 revenue split for any music that you play, and it only encompasses large labels. I think there's a group of labels that hashed out this deal with Twitch that would allow their music to be played by DJs specifically onto Twitch. And to me, looking at it, my question is, why would anybody do that? Why would anybody not just take a shot at just playing the music and essentially fucking around and finding out? Because Twitch, up until this point, has been fairly terrible at trying to actually stop that stuff. You know what I mean? Like, there's people right now that are playing all kinds of music and they're just speaking over it, and therefore their automated system doesn't actually pick up on the music. Because there's a lot of like low background music in there. I guess a lot of that is content-free music. And at the end of the day, when it comes to us as Psytrance DJs, it doesn't even matter, because our labels, or the labels that are active in the Psytrance community, aren't part of the deal, as far as I know. Otherwise, it would be interesting. It would maybe be interesting, but why would you give up 50% of revenue if you can just instead decide to play non-copyrighted music and get 100% of the revenue? With the amount of music that's out there now, any DJ would be able to fill a set with just copyright-free music. And and play whatever they want and keep 100% of the revenue instead of giving 50% of your revenue to a record label that basically did nothing for them for that. What would be a much better deal, in my opinion, is anytime a song is played on stream for everybody, not just for DJs, have it pop up a button with Spotify or Apple Music or Amazon Music, whatever. Twitch is obviously bought by Amazon, so that would make sense as well, where you can directly add that song to your playlist. Wouldn't that be a much better deal for the record labels, as opposed to just getting that easy cash grab? Because what that does is it essentially just discourages people from actually, playing that kind of music. Because now playing that specific music will cost them revenue. Whereas if you play somebody that isn't included within that deal, or that just posts their music copyright free, you're not going to have that issue. I think they were being allowed to get away with it because they were promised to come to a deal. Yeah. Of course, now Twitch has an incentive to more forcefully look for copyrighted material. And maybe over the last few months, they have been working on like their own content ID system, their claiming system for copyrighted stuff, which would make sense if this deal is now in place. Like one of the, I guess, one of the prerequisites of this deal to actually function is a functioning copyright detection system. At the end of the day, it is just the biggest labels exercising their power, right? Twitch is still in a position where they could be sued by a bunch of record labels and they could essentially be told to shut down. Still, they're not as big as YouTube at this point is so big that YouTube could fight back when they would get sued, but Twitch isn't. Because Twitch is not a very big platform. Like they have maybe a couple of million people watching at any given time, which is not a lot. YouTube is used every day by billions at this point. So they're a much bigger company. They're a much bigger player in the music space as well. Like if labels were to go against YouTube, YouTube could just say, okay, then we'll take down all of the music that you have on the platform, essentially killing what the label is providing, Because then the label effectively loses a very big part of their promotion. Twitch isn't. Twitch isn't a big part of promotion for record labels. So, in my opinion, they see it more as a cash grab where they can say, okay, we'll let you play the music, but you need to give us a lot of money to do so. Whereas for YouTube, they see more the value in just having the music on the platform. It was inevitable. Yeah, exactly. At some point, the label is just going to exercise their... At the end of the day, that's what they need to do. They're a company, so they need to make money, right? So at some point, they were just going to say, like, okay, now we want some money for the music that we have in our collection. Only Google is above YouTube. Exactly, yeah. YouTube is a big player when it comes to promotion of music as well. Or essentially, I think one of the biggest, if not the biggest. Like, realistically speaking, the people of my age don't listen to radio. And at some point, TikTok is going to have the same thing, right? Because TikTok is also in hot water. And right now, the labels haven't yet realized what a massive promotion TikTok gives to music. I mean, they have realized it from that they're telling their artists to make music that could potentially blow up on TikTok. Maybe invent a little dance already for their music so that when it comes out, you can have the artist itself doing some kind of dance. And then maybe, who knows, it will blow up on TikTok kind of deal. But they probably haven't realized that if you were to take down all of the music from TikTok, which some labels are trying to do right now, that they lose that promotion. Right? TikTok is just going to say, okay, if you want to pressure us, and YouTube is going to say the same thing, if you want to pressure us into getting a deal with you, and we don't like that deal, then we're just going to take all of the music that you have posted from the platform. and then you won't have any of that promotion anymore. YouTube hits you with strikes all the time, though. You can stream and upload recordings on Beatport, but the audience is mostly other DJs. I mean, YouTube's copyright system is very misunderstood in that it's a lot of people think that YouTube is some kind of malicious actor within the content IDs, with the content ID system that they have, which they really aren't. They're just trying to follow the DMCA law. They have to do what they're doing. When it comes to a claim, it's not YouTube doing anything. It's most of the time, because I believe even with an automatic claim, what an automatic claim means is that the content was automatically found and then the claim came through by a human. Like a human needs to sign off on an automatic claim. Yeah, it's not YouTube. It's labels. And the labels have that is one of the requirements why they were not sued by Verizon back in the day when YouTube was starting out. Because YouTube almost just got like basically bombarded into nothingness by a big lawsuit by Verizon, which is an American like multimedia company or whatever. Since that moment they have seen a lot of reduction in revenue and such, but they used to be a very, very big player in multimedia. And people were just uploading their shows on there. And Verizon was saying, like, YouTube knows about this stuff. YouTube has to do something about this stuff. And the way that they got around that was by some section in the DMCA law. There's like a specific number for it, but it's like a safe harbor provision is what it's called. Which means that YouTube essentially says, like, we're such a big platform, we don't know what everybody is posting. We'll try our best to create automated systems that go through it. And but there may be cases that will slip through the gap, and you cannot sue us for those cases, right? You cannot, if something gets posted on our website and we don't know about it yet, you cannot sue us on that basis. That is essentially what, as far as I know about the DMCA law and all of that stuff, and I'm by no means an expert. Maybe that should be obvious, but maybe I should say that anyway. I'm not a legal expert. Don't take this as any legal advice that I'm telling you here. But they essentially were on the brink of being sued, or maybe they were even sued, and this was one of the terms of either the settlement or how the lawsuit ended. They were essentially arguing that they were a safe haven, and therefore they are not responsible for all of the content that is posted on their website. And that is why we as creators are responsible for that. We are responsible for the content that we post onto YouTube. And therefore, like, any DMCA claim doesn't go to YouTube, it goes to us. It goes to us, the creators. If there is DMCA-able content on our channel, then we get a DMCA claim. Or strike in the worst cases. Or even worse, we could get sued as individual creators. Not YouTube, though. As long as YouTube doesn't know. If YouTube were to, say, take a re-upload of say somebody uploads Breaking Bad, right, to YouTube, the whole show, all of the episodes, and YouTube takes all of those episodes and put them onto trending, then a case could be made against YouTube, because then they know about the content. The whole argument, the whole idea for, or the whole reason why this system works, and the whole reason why YouTube is still around, is because YouTube gets to argue like we don't know. That is essentially their legal argument. And that is why, when it comes to a dispute, YouTube will never mitigate that dispute. Because at the end of the day, YouTube is pulling their hands away. They don't want to know, because if they knew, then there would be grounds of suing YouTube, which of course they want to avoid at all costs. That's why the DMCA claims any dispute goes directly to the claimant, and YouTube never gets to see that. There's actually a great video on this for anybody that's interested in this kind of stuff. Maybe I should shout this out. It's a little bit of a long video, but if you have the time for it, then it's definitely worth it. It's by Tom Scott. This one over here. The first one, the YouTube's copyright system isn't broken, the world is. And as you can see, it's like 40 minutes and it explains all of this stuff. And this is where I get a lot of the information. Of course, you know, running a label and having done YouTube for, I say 4 years, but much longer. I know some of this stuff from other places, but this is a really good resource that explains at least the details that a normal person would need to know about how all of this works. Record companies / artists needs to get more clever about using their music on YouTube instead of striking goal for revenue share. That is basically the default. It is very unlikely that content actually gets removed from YouTube when it comes to copyrighted stuff. Most of the time, the revenue just gets paid to the rights owner or the rights holder. Right, so if somebody claims your video because you have some song into it, then all of the money that video would make would go to the claimant as opposed to you. And again, there has to be a reason why it has to be 100% of the revenue from that particular video, as opposed to 50-50 or some kind of other split based on maybe the length of the copyrighted content or something like that. And again, the reason for that is because YouTube isn't a mitigator and they're unaware, technically or legally, they're unaware of any of the content being posted on their system. And as Des points out, this system is always going to have bad actors trying to exploit that. A while ago, maybe 2 years ago now, somebody in Mexico got arrested because essentially what they would do is they had access to the Content ID system, which is not easy to get into, by the way. I'm not in there. My label isn't in there. So I wouldn't be able to protect my own copyright on YouTube. At least not through the Content ID system, which is different than the copyright system that I have as a YouTuber. I can take videos down, but I cannot claim other videos as revenue. So in order to do that, you need to be part of the Content ID system, and this Mexican guy did somehow get access to the Content ID system and was just claiming all kinds of songs that he didn't hold the rights to in any way. And he was essentially just committing fraud that way. And there's bad actors that misuse this kind of stuff. I'm going to take a quick break and I'll put on some other music. Maybe I'll just play this song in its entirety, because I don't know if you guys have heard the whole song yet. I think that's what I'll do. And then for the next break, if I do another one, I have another track that I want to play again that has been a while since I last played it. Hasn't there been some kind of trouble with Content ID and Splice samples? Yeah, that's another thing. Splice has made it so that multiple people use the same sounds and the Content ID system doesn't really know how to handle that. In case of the splice thing, I don't think that there's any bad actors involved. I think that that's a quirk of the system. In regards to filter sweeps, at the end of the day, a human has to approve an automatic claim, right? An automatic detection only becomes a claim if a human decides that that detection needs to be acted upon. Even when I go to my copyright segment, I get, I think, a few videos. I don't know if I'm allowed to show this. Yeah. there's a few videos in here that show copyright matches. So this is like a mix that I posted. I posted the mix first to my own channel so that I could send it to somebody as like a unlisted video, and then the mix came out on the Eclipse Sound Syndicate channel. I get this kind of match for that, and I would be able to take down the video based on that. And the same is true here with my track and another track of mine that the other guy also posted on his channel. But this is all stuff that I haven't acted on, of course. But I could if I wanted to. The only thing that I can do, as far as I know, is just remove the videos from YouTube. And I cannot, but these are automatically matched for me, and I have to act on them. And I believe the Content ID system works in the exact same way. The labels hire people just to sit around and approve everything. To be honest, I don't even think that they hire people for that. I think that they have a bot that just approves everything, at least for the first detection, and maybe even for subsequent, like if you appeal it, something that they immediately deny the appeal, because you're essentially powerless against a big label like that. Especially the big labels, the mainstream labels. I would just not spend too much time worrying about that and just claim everything that you can and hark in as much money as possible. And maybe sometimes there are some appeals that you let through to a human reviewer, but even that, realistically, what is going to happen if you just automate that and just deny any appeal that you're going to get? To be honest, I don't know. I've never been at any big record labels. I'm just speculating here. Maybe that should be clear. So I don't exactly know. That's how the Mexican guy got access. Yeah, that makes sense. That would make sense. You apply for a job like that and then you just maintain your access and then misuse it. Anyway, I'm taking a quick break and then I'll be back and we can discuss that further because I find that kind of stuff very, very interesting. In the meantime, I'm just going to play this track over here. Keep in mind that the last part of it, mainly this part over here, isn't done. We might work on that a little bit later as well. But for now, this is what I have.
psychedelic.
Yeah, the rest is just kick and bass. I can stop it here. You guys aren't missing anything. Maybe I should write some stuff in the outro because that's the only spot that I have don't have like an actual main idea in yet. But I'm thinking just taking the loop that is in this part over here, the drum loop, and using that for the outro. Um, let's see. For Steven Seagal. Yeah, when you say bad actors, that is mainly what we mean. I am lucky enough that I've never have seen any movie by Steven Seagal, like fully. Of course, I've skipped through it from time to time. That stuff happens, but I've never watched an entire Steven Seagal movie. Like, I've seen his face on TV, but I would usually skip away immediately. In regard to the Star Wars stuff, to be honest, I don't remember my thoughts on the first 6 movies. I recall the 7th one, which was the first new one, being kind of boring. I mean, at the time, when it came to just watching the movie in cinemas, it was a fun experience. But it was nothing more than that. Some of the other movies also have that feeling for me. To be honest, I don't remember, because I think the first 6 I watched now over 10 years ago, when I was much younger. Maybe I should rewatch them at some point. But that, to be quite honest, I'm not that much of a movie guy. Like, I think the last time I went to the cinema is now over a year ago. At the end of the day, I am growing up in the age of the internet, and I grew up, I guess, even from when I was a child. Not when I was a child, but when I was like 12, something like that, where YouTube was immediately accessible, and all of the content that I was really interested in at that point was on YouTube. In the last few years, there's never really been a movie that I was like, oh, I need to watch that, I need to see that in cinema, or I need to get that on DVD. Sometimes I'll watch something on streaming or stuff like that, but that is like very rare. That may happen 3-4 times a year, something like that. I guess the only reason why I go to the cinema is if my friends decide to go to the cinema. Then I go with them, of course. But I'm not that much of a movie nerd that I would specifically, or either on my own or maybe with my girlfriend or whatever, go to the movie. Like, there's more interesting things that I personally like to do. And if I'm specifically looking for entertainment, instead of going to the cinema, which takes some time to get prepared for, you need to leave your house or something like that, or watching something on streaming, it is much easier for me to just go onto YouTube or Twitch and watch some content there. So that is usually the option that I go for. Like, I have to either see a clip on YouTube or hear some streamer reference a specific movie, and that needs to really elicit a response in me that I'm like, okay, I'm going to watch that now. I'm going to see if that's available on a streaming service that I have access to, and see if I can find that movie. And sometimes I do. I believe, which movie did I rewatch again? Was some kind of like alien movie about the world being infected with aliens and them taking over, and then eventually they died because of bacteria. My father has seen Joker. He says Joker is very good, but I haven't seen it. I should, but again, as I said, I'm not that much of a movie nerd that I would specifically go out of my way to actually look at it or look for it. I'm happy with the entertainment that is provided to me for free on YouTube, I guess. War of the Worlds is the movie you're thinking of, probably. Yeah, it's with the act. What? Why can I not get his name? Tom Cruise. Yeah, it's a Tom Cruise movie, right? Wasn't he in there? Yeah, exactly. War of the Worlds. That is a movie. That is the last movie that I looked for on streaming, and that I actually watched, I guess. And that was half a year ago now, I think. Even if I go onto Amazon Prime, anytime I go onto Amazon Prime, I'd much rather watch an episode of the Grand Tour than a movie, to be honest. I don't know. I don't know why I'm not that much into movies. I guess it's just personal taste, but it's not something that, as I said, personally, like I specifically look for. And for that reason, sometimes there's some cultural references that I just don't get. I want to let's first work on the outro because I have a specific plan for that now. I'll just copy over this part of the loop here. Do I want to stop this stuff here? I think I do. Some of the delay tails are getting in the way of that. I really want this fill to kind of cut off everything that is happening before. I like sometimes to use an effect like that. Maybe not even have this thing in here. Here I'm doing the delay inside of Serum for some reason. What's the last time I've done that? I don't know, maybe this is part of like a preset or something that I made for a video. I think this may be something that I made for a short. That may be why it's in there. Oh, I did this the wrong way around. It should be like this. That's why that was still bleeding in there. Okay, and then here I do want to take the final part, which is this. Just copy it over like that. Let me get like a reverse kick into that. It's beer o'clock. It isn't for me. I'm just drinking my famous iced tea. That rhymes. Very interesting. I did drink with my parents, of course, when I was on vacation. But when it comes to drinking, I recently bought myself a bottle of Montenegro. Again. After not having a bottle of that stuff in my house for quite a while. And to be honest, when it comes to drinking, like I only really drink when I'm out with friends or when I'm visiting my parents. Because to be honest, drinking alone is, to me, is just I'm just going to say it like it is. To me, it just feels sad when you're on your own drinking. But I do like Montenegro to the extent that I may sometimes want to have like a glass of it before going to bed. Montenegro, for those that don't know, is like an amaro. It's like a liquor, but fairly bitter and fairly sweet as well. It's also a country in the Balkans. But this stuff over here, for any Italians watching, they'll probably have some very terrible childhood memories of this kind of stuff, because this is one of those drinks that you get before going out to drink in with. But I like it. It's great stuff. 420 here, but, well, 520, but hey. Yeah, it's always 420 somewhere. The saying goes, at least for my parents, it's always 5 o'clock somewhere, because it's socially acceptable at 5 o'clock to start drinking. So that's the saying, I guess. At least, I mean, that doesn't mean that my parents drink a lot or anything like that. They drink a healthy amount. But when we're out celebrating my birthday, of course, we drank a little bit more than what we would normally do, which entails, I think we had 2 glasses of special beer, of Ambrata at a bar, and then another glass of beer, at least for me, another glass of beer, and then they had a wine during dinner, which, I mean, is, I guess, not much even for a birthday. And seeing as I never drink, or almost never drink, like maybe once every 2 weeks, if I'm just going out with friends or something like that, at the end of the day, or not at the end of it, when it came to drinking there after 2 beers, they were half-liter beers, so it was quite a lot, and it was also a little bit of a stronger one because it's like a special beer. I was feeling a little bit tipsy at that point. So that should give you an idea of how little I normally drink. And that's just because I don't like to do it alone. And the only real chance that you have to do it with friends, or at least for me, is when I go out in the weekend, which happens maybe, I would say once a week, but it's usually the case that for 1 week I don't go out, and then for the other week I go out the Friday and the Saturday. And even then, sometimes it's only the Friday and sometimes it's only the Saturday. One of my problems is that I've always stayed friends with the people that in the first year that I was here here in Cremona with, I was in university with. And now almost all of those people that I initially went to university with are gone. Like, they finished and they went other places, of course, and stuff like that. And the people that came into their place were younger than me. And every year, the oldest people go away, and I'm 27 now. And they get replaced with people that are 22, 23-ish, maybe. So every year, the disparity in terms of just age becomes more and more and more. I'm sad and lonely and beer is my only friend. I hope it isn't, because that's a really bad idea. I never drink alone. Yeah, to me, it's not, drinking alone is not a good way of consuming. It's just not fun. Drinking is something that is like a very social thing, even though it's perfectly doable alone, right? Like, there's nothing actually preventing you from just pouring a glass for yourself. It's just not fun to do it alone. Every 2 weeks, I order myself a pizza and 2 beers. And that is usually, I guess, around the time that I go out as well. So that maybe the Thursday before or the Sunday after. If I had like a particularly long stream, I'll do something like that so that I don't have to cook. So there is some moments where I technically drink alone, but then it's like 2 beers and that's very little, who cares? And especially when it comes to like liquor and stuff, or in general just getting drunk. I haven't been drunk in over a year, like properly drunk. You know what I mean? And I said before I was a little bit tipsy. I don't count that as properly drunk. When you're like actually drunk, um, I guess that's different than just slightly tipsy from a couple of beers with your parents. And drinking alone is just not. Yeah, it's just I don't see the appeal. I want to start adding a few one shots towards the end here. Maybe let's start with the atmospheres, because I have a ton of atmospheres in here. Honestly, I'm just thinking of copying over this bit here and then potentially moving some of that stuff around. Is this in the right channel? No, it should be one lower. Needs to be forward by 1. All of that stuff, because this is where our outro starts. Just gonna throw in some random sounds to see what sticks. This should be here. I often have 1 can of beer with cider and my evening meal, but mixed with the day's wheat and the condition my doctor gives me, it's enough. Yeah, that if you have any form of condition, then of course you need to be really careful with that kind of stuff. Um, yeah, to be honest, I don't have anything else to add to that. I was trying to see if I could maybe say something clever or something like that, but nothing is coming up. I'm sorry if you were disappointed in my lack of abilities there to contribute to the discussion here. I think I want to have this one 4 bars earlier, because this is where outro starts, right? Yeah. That's cool. I like where that is going. I like the idea of finalizing the, or not really finalizing, but recalling the part that is starting at the, or that's playing at the very start here. That might be cool in a DJ set to kind of round out the whole track. That's groovy. Thank you. I smoke, which is why I don't drink. I feel like doing both is a bit much. I guess my pleasure is not so much smoking or drinking or stuff like that, but it's mainly candy. I guess I eat a lot of candy, which is also not good for you, but I think it may be better than smoking or drinking. That being said, I do smoke, so there's that. But maybe not as much as most people. Smoking really, for most people, is really either you don't smoke at all or you smoke 20 cigarettes a day. And I'm currently at maybe 3, something like that, 3, 4 a day. And I wish to stay there. I don't want to do much more. I like it. I know even at my level it is technically bad for you, but it's not so bad as the people that smoke a pack. I'm too hungry too often. Yeah, it's I guess maybe one of the reasons why sometimes I forget to eat is if I take a lot of candy. So that is really bad for you. But that doesn't happen often, to be honest. I mean, it doesn't really matter there. I wanted to check. There was something else in here. Another delay till, I think. This thing is what is going on for too long here. I'm just going to push that down like that. That should do the job here. There must be a better way of doing this where you copy something over and then you just want to add fades or little automation. I guess the preparation for the automation so that it doesn't click when the sound starts to play. I like that. And we fade out over here. This means that the track is 10 minutes long. Basically, it's 9:55, which is a little bit long. Especially because this is going to go on an album that already has a track that is 13 minutes, I think. I don't remember, and I cannot check. I guess I could check the waveform. No, because I don't want to spoil that track. Even what it is, what it's trying to do is fairly interesting. I'm not going to spoil that, so I won't check that here. But I believe it's like 13 minutes. And then there's another track that is also 9 minutes. There's a lot of long tracks on the album, essentially. I don't smoke any tobacco, only weed or some legal herbal substitute, like they use in coffee shops. I know what you mean. Yeah, isn't that male, like male, essentially male weed, because it's the female plants that get you high, right? Same, only weed, but since I roll weed with tobacco, I still smoke cigarettes, essentially. I do like a little bit of tobacco when I smoke weed. Of course, I'm a tobacco smoker, so that is... I mean, that explains the reasoning why. But if I do smoke weed, I like a little bit of tobacco in there. I want something that transitions over here. I like that. I think in terms of atmospheres, this track is pretty much done. So that's neat. There can be hemp in it, but it's mostly other herbs. Okay. But yeah, it's like a substitute for tobacco that they just put on the table when you're there. I remember from the time we went to the Netherlands with my friends back when we were 20, I think. That's now like 6 years ago. 7. We went for New Year's. And so we were in Amsterdam, and in Amsterdam there's like big fireworks shows. I think there's a couple of them. But we decided to go to one of these, and we didn't really know where it was. And we didn't, of course, because of our mental state at the time, because of what we were doing there, we didn't think of looking at the map or just asking anybody, even though I speak perfect Dutch, of course, and I can just literally walk up to anybody and just ask them where it is. So we walked to where we thought it would be, which I believe was there's like a museum. Let me see if I remember from the maps on Google Maps. This map was created by a user. Why can't you just go to Google Maps anymore? It used to be the case that Google Maps would just be up here. And now we have this, which doesn't open to full Google Maps in any way. At least, that's what I think. And even this link didn't actually bring me to Google Maps, but to some user-created map, which is not what I am interested in. I just want Google Maps. This is what I want. Yeah, here. We were standing essentially right here. So this is Scheepsvaartmuseum, and this is Nemo. And we were waiting right here. And because Nemo was like in the way, the fireworks show was right here. This is where they lit the fireworks, and I think maybe people were watching from here or something like that. But we were essentially blocked by Nemo, which is a science museum. So this is a fairly, as you can see from the image that it's now showing, it's a fairly tall building. We're essentially behind this building right there in the corner. So we saw the fireworks show, but only the very top of the fireworks and nothing else. and so we got here early. We got here like half an hour early. And there were already a few people standing here, so we thought we were at the right spot to actually see the fireworks. And by midnight, I think there were like 3,000 people standing here, and nobody got to see the fireworks. Because at the end of the day, if one person is waiting here and they say like, yeah, this is the place, you can just stay here, then it turns into like a little bit of a group. We got there were maybe like 50 people waiting for right there. So we didn't really even question it. We just saw a group of people standing around talking to each other, and we were like, oh, they're waiting for the fireworks, so let's stand here and we'll wait for the fireworks as well. And by the end, that just like continues happening. And by the end, there were like, I'm saying 3,000 people, but I think 2,000 people were standing here and here on this side of the road as well. And none of them got to see the fireworks. So we went to Amsterdam for New Year's, and we didn't even get to enjoy that part. I mean, we did enjoy Amsterdam, don't get me wrong. But the part that we were going to celebrate, at least, we didn't catch, which was fairly funny. I want some more atmospheres in here, I think. I said we were done with the atmospheres, but we'll grab a few more in here. I want the flute one, which may be this one here. Yes. And I want that in the middle here, I think. I think I'm gonna make some of the notes in this MIDI a bit shorter, because it feels fairly long still. Right before the stream I already made them shorter, but it still feels like it's getting clogged up in here. This one needs to be copied over there. I spent some time in the Netherlands, not since 2012 though. One of the things going back to the Netherlands after having lived there for 16 years is the Netherlands. Everything seems to progress much faster than Italy. Like when I came back to my hometown, they literally took the road that was going through the town when we left, and it was now going around the town. So the road was in an entirely different spot. And having lived in an area for, I guess that area I lived there for maybe like 7 years, because my father, because of his job, had to always move around. But if you're that used to an area and you haven't seen it for a while and you come back and it's just completely different in the sense that the main road is just in a completely different spot, that is like a very strange thing to see. Also, how modern the country is. You know what I mean? Like everything is nice, everything is tidy, everything is modernized. If you go to the train station, it looks nice. You'll never be on a train station and feel like, oh, this is crumbling and stuff like that. And here in Italy, every train station looks like it's about to crumble. Even if you go to Milan or now when I came back from Siena from my little vacation, I went through Firenze and Bologna, which are two of the biggest cities here in Italy, and both of them just had like stations with cracks in the platforms and stuff like that. Something like that would never happen in the Netherlands. And that is maybe a little bit of a shock to me, even coming back. If you're so used to the Italian way of doing infrastructure, going back to the Netherlands, that is a fairly big shock there. Where I live is linked to Rotterdam by ferry. Yeah, you just doxed yourself. Good job. Yeah, Rotterdam has changed completely. I want to visit again. So much art. There is a good deal of change in cities like that. Yeah. I mean, I went back to Arnhem, to their main train station, which I had never seen before. The train station in Arnhem looks very, very cool. I mean, Rotterdam as well. It has won prizes, of course. Rotterdam Centraal. But I have never seen the Rotterdam train station, like in person. Only seen pictures and stuff like that of it. I also would like to see what is the other thing that they have in Rotterdam? That indoor market thing, where it's like a building that looks like it's wrapped around something, where like it looks like a building that starts going up and then it just does a U-turn back down, and in there's like a food market in there. Um, I don't know what the name of that building is, but that's something that I would want to see as well. I mean, I have been to Rotterdam, of course, many years ago, back when I still lived there in the Netherlands, and I've seen the harbor. You get like a speedo tour through it. That is like a boat service that does like a tour throughout the whole harbor. That is very interesting to see as well. I've seen the Kuip, where Feyenoord plays, which is the team that I root for, if I root for any football team, because lately I haven't been really watching it. Even though they won the championship, I, to be honest, don't care too much about football that I would regularly watch it on my own. But of course, when you're living with your parents, then that was kind of like a tradition. You know, you would had fries and frikandel, and then you would eat in front of Studio Sport. For any Dutch people watching, they'll know what I mean. I visited Bulgaria. That place is falling to pieces too. Yeah, to be honest, it's not a dig at Italy, the way that I described what I just said, but it's more that I guess there's very few places that take so good care of their infrastructure, not just in the way that they maintain it, but also the way that whenever a road needs like proper maintenance, in the Netherlands, that is also the moment that they just completely redesign that part of the infrastructure. And that is something that you really notice, because I guess here in Italy, which is really the only example that I can give, because I haven't lived in Budapest long enough that you really start to take notice of those things. But here in Italy, one of the things that you'll find is that they'll redo an entire road and they'll basically put in the same road as they had before. So in a couple of years, they just have to redo the work again, and then they have to redo the work again. In the Netherlands, anytime that they have to do proper, like, big maintenance, if they're filling up a pothole, then obviously they don't do this kind of thing. They just fill it up and whatever. But if it's like proper maintenance that they have to do, they'll immediately look at, okay, how can we improve this part of the infrastructure? If we're already tearing it up and having to redo it, we might as well take the time, do it a little bit more, or spend a little bit more and actually improve the infrastructure that is there. That is something that you notice, that philosophy of thinking about infrastructure in that way is something that you just notice in the way that things work around there. Because it feels like everything is much more up to date. To be honest, when it comes to the ideas in this track, I think I just need to let it rest for a little bit. There may be some details in here which I'm not entirely a fan of, but I think in terms of main idea, I'm pretty much there. There maybe need a few more one-shots in this part over here, specifically this bit. But that is also a thing that I might need to let rest a little bit. I think that means that I'm going to end the stream here. Because to be honest, I don't really have an idea of what else I want to do at this point. There are some other projects in terms of music that I need to work on. But those are all projects that I essentially don't want to spoil before the album comes out. So, of course, I cannot really do that before or without showing you guys the project and playing stuff like that. Yeah, with more connection issues, it's probably a good time to wrap up. I was explaining that I was going to wrap it up, but you guys didn't see that because my connection dropped again. It seems very unstable again today. Again, I don't really know what I can do about that. I did reset the router right before I started the stream and everything. So this is just a connection issue. Again, as I've said many times, I hope in September I'll get fiber, which is one of the first things I'll do in the new apartment, and then I'm just fixed with these kind of connection issues. Did you ever go to Zandvoort? It's a strange place. It's like a Spanish holiday resort in the North Sea. From what I can remember, I've never been there. Of course, nowadays it is a very, I guess, touristy place, especially one weekend of the year when the Formula One is there. And then I imagine that it just fills up with people, and it has to be. I don't know how to say it, but the town has to be, like, I guess, designed for that, which may have some impact on how the place looks and stuff like that. I've no idea why it would be a Spanish holiday resort, specifically. Like, are there a lot of Spanish people there then? Or did you just happen to catch it once and met a lot of Spanish people? To be honest, I don't know. From what I can remember, I've never been there. At least not that I can actively remember. As I said, maybe I have been there. Maybe I've gone or driven through it to some other place. But I don't have any active memories of Zandvoort, which is a funny phrase to say. Yeah, anyways, since we're having more connection issues, I'm going to call it here for today. As I said, I'm pretty much happy with the progress that I did today. What I need to do now is just let the project sit for a little while and let my brain get used to it a little bit more again. Or let me essentially forget the project again for at least the most part. So that whenever I have a new session on it, I can get in there with completely fresh ears. And that just takes like a week or something like that. And I would do other stuff since the stream is fairly short. But all of the other projects that I currently need to work on are projects that I don't want to spoil for you guys for the album. So that's not going to fly for today. It looks Spanish with high-rise hotels. I mean, yeah, I can see it. It's a popular beach town, so yeah, that makes sense. It's kind of like Rimini then. Rimini is like the at least one of the more commonly visited Italian beach spots, I guess, even from people coming from outer countries. It's no longer like that. It used to be much more back in the 60s and 70s, which means that there's a lot of hotels which are just empty and crumbling now. Um, but in that case, I could see what you mean there. Personally, I've never been there, so I wouldn't be able to comment on it. I don't know. Um, but that makes sense. That makes more sense than what I initially thought of you just meeting a bunch of Spanish people there. Looking back at it now, that was a little bit of a weird question, I guess. Anyway, that's going to be it for today. As I said, I hope you guys enjoyed the stream, even though it was a little bit of a shorter one. And I hope to see you in the next one, which is going to be this Sunday, for some more feedback.